Peace, family. Peace. It's your boy Jamaar Milton, and this upcoming video, is a video that ended up crashing the Facebook service. Um, this video that I'm about to post to you is one that ended up crashing the Facebook service, and they took it down. We had about 40,000 views in less than an hour, and we had about 2,000 people in the room at one time. And it was a really controversial video, and I'm posting it here on YouTube because Facebook took it down. But what they don't know is that I saved it, and I have everything backed up. We too geeky. They can't stop us. So the title of this video, the theme of this video, is the origin of the white race. It's the origin of the white race. And I appreciate everybody who was on, all 40,000 people. But I'm going to go ahead and play this video for y'all so y'all can get this work. They can't stop us. There's going to be a couple of moments of silence in the beginning as we had to work out the sound. But definitely, come get this work. Put your nines up. Peace. Can y'all hear me now? Let's start it over. Huh? We got to make sure we on frequency. Let's go. Yeah. Come on in. Yeah. Let's go. Yep, yep. Can you hear me now? Put those nines up. If you can hear me now, put your nines up. Ah, I see those nines. Let's go. Sometimes we gotta bring it back. Sometimes we gotta bring it back. Let's go. You already know. Yep. You know you're gonna get this work. You know you're gonna get this work. I ain't gonna let you down. Come on in, family. Put them up. Grand Rising. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Yeah. Come and get that divine energy. Rise up. Rise up from the root to the crown. Because we're going there this morning. We're going there. Yes, we are. We're going there. Huh? Fierce conversation, but necessary nonetheless. Got to make sure that the people are empowered with this knowledge. We have to understand our place here on this planet, how we got here, how others got here. What happened, right? We got to talk about it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Who was my first 9? Let me bring it back. Who's my first 9 here? Elise, Grand Rising Queen. On deck. See, Janae. Once upon a time in Brooklyn. See, I told you the Queens was the first to pop it off. Tasha, Andrea. Huh? What's going on? Priest Brother Dwayne, Man at Arms. Huh? We got one brother on here popping it off. Latifa. I see you, Queen. Kiwi. I see you putting your 9s up, Tamika. Cobbin. Let's go. Cobbin's a rider. Rebel. Vicky, Giovanni. I see y'all up early, ready to go. Phaedra. Vicky, Autumn. Said we got no sound, it don't matter. We on deck, huh? We're not even going to refresh the page because we know it's going to happen. Arthur. I see you. Hold on, I want to pronounce this one. Arthur Yahweh-san. Lewis, welcome. Welcome to the Lighthouse. Grand Rising, brother. Tamara, Adrika, Willie, I see you. I see you. Thank you for the love. Tasha Fiddux, I see you too. Brittany, Bravo, everybody. Therese, all right, we about to get lit. All right, we gotta go in. Okay. This is a necessary conversation. History is necessary, right? Because when we deal with our history, they like to start us from slavery all the time. When we talk about black people, when we talk about the human race, they like to talk about us from a historical sense of bondage, right? But we got to go back. We got to take these things all the way back and understand how things came to be. We got a lot of people that ask me, where did white people come from, man? Like, you know what I'm saying? Some people, when you have that situation with that one white person at work, or, you have that situation where somebody's done you wrong, a lot of times they ask, their nature is very different from ours. How did this happen? Why? How did they become that way? Who are they? They say they came from the mountains. Okay, well, how did they get to the mountains? You got to ask these questions. Anytime somebody give you some information, you got to say why. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did all of this begin? Where did it come from? Right? So, what I want to break down to y'all today is, first and foremost, you're dealing with the continent of Africa. It's argumentatively people try to say, okay, yeah, we didn't come from Africa. We did come from Africa. At the end of the day, we got to deal with the evidence at hand. And the evidence at hand tells us the only artifacts that we have, the oldest artifacts that we have of human beings, okay, Homo sapien sapien, right? Human is in Africa. Okay, that's when you're dealing with Lucy and things of that nature. Okay, as Lucy, she has another name, but for the sake of those who don't know, that's Lucy was the oldest bone fragments found in the world. A human being. So when we go back before prior, okay, to all of this clutter, we have to realize when we're dealing with white people, when we're dealing with the white race, or what some might call the Hyksos, okay, there's documentation of the white race coming into Africa, laid out in stone. Okay, we've already had that. I mean, we've been warring with them since the beginning of time. Okay, and that documentation is in Kemet. You can see when the Hyksos was coming into Africa and they were starting to invade, okay, for African goods, for African wealth, okay? Mind you, Africa is the only place that is self-sustainable other than all the other continents in the world. Africa is the only one that's actually grounded to the planet. All other continents are actually floating. They're floating. They're islands. They're large islands that have broken apart. Africa is actually pillared to the earth, okay? It's where you find the natural elements. It's where you find the natural resources that are necessary to sustain life, okay? These natural resources are all you need to survive for any race. Any race of beings can survive with these natural resources, okay? You have to ask yourself why a country so abundant in natural resources is so poor. The only way that can happen is if you seize ownership of those natural resources. That's the only way that happens. You have to seize those natural resources, okay? So the beings that were not on the African plane somehow had to find themselves on the African plane to seize these natural resources. And the only way they're going to do that is through war. It's through war. They're going to have to come in and take that stuff. Because we're not just going to give you our land. You understand? We're not just going to give that up. That's life. Okay? So when you look at the map and you see the natural resources, these are all broken up into different countries nowadays. When they colonize these countries, it was according to the natural resources. Okay, you ask yourself, well, why? What determines the borders? Right? You got to ask yourself, what determines where we draw the line at? You know what I'm saying? It's not waterways crossing through all of these borders. It's the cutoff points of the natural resources. You understand? When somebody comes in and they say, I want to bag up all the gold, they're gonna trace their line out. No, you can't come here. Why? Because this is where all the gold is found. You understand? This is where all the coffee is found, and this is what we trade. So no, you can't come on this land. This is our land. This is where all our cotton is. This is where all our oil is. You can't come past this line. You understand? So this is how countries are made. This is why Africa has 88 damn countries in it, instead of it just being one continent or one country, or it's 88 of them. Okay, so now when the Hyksos came in, originally we had already been there. We had already circumnavigated the globe out into Europe. We had already been around the entire Plane 8. We had already been everywhere you could possibly be. Okay. The Moors were the ones who were the ones that were the travelers. They were the ones that was going around teaching everybody how to survive in certain areas, right? So they were the first ones to like shift their DNA to be able to live in places where they weren't supposed to be living. They were the explorers, the travelers, the adventurers. That's when you're dealing with the Moors. Okay, so they were the ones that were developing relationships with all the other cousins and brothers and sisters that had migrated out of Africa into other continents. They were the travelers, the nomads. They was the ones that was giving them goods and services and teaching them certain things that we had learned back home, right? Showing them how to survive. And then they go to another spot or go back home. They were just travelers going all around. Okay? So when the white people came, and I'll get into how they actually originated, when they first came in to Africa, we was helping them out. You know, We're a peaceful people. You know, we was teaching them how to bathe, how to wash themselves, how to stand upright. You understand? They was coming fresh out of the caves, so they didn't even know how to stand up straight. Okay, one of our nomads taught them how to stand upright. He put a board in their back and had them stand upright because they were so used to crouching down in the caves. You understand? We literally gave them their life back because they was away from the sun. You understand? They didn't have any melanin. You dig what I'm saying? So we not only taught them how to bathe, we even circumcised the penises of their men. People that don't know what they're doing in this hieroglyph think that they just playing with penises. And they try to call the people leukemic homo. But they didn't realize that these were physicians. And as you see, these are grown men. But they have tools in their hands. They were circumcising their penises because they were unclean. These are grown men. And you see he's bounding the hands of the guy on the left because it's so painful. But they was cutting off the foreskin and teaching them how they're supposed to keep themselves clean. We taught them that. You see, they don't want you to know about Africa, the true nature of Africa, and how we had doctors and things of that nature already. We was already set in stone by the time they came in. You feel what I'm saying? So you got to ask yourself, well, why would we help these people? Why would we help them if they barbaric and they killing everybody? Because they didn't start off like that. They didn't start off killing everybody. As a matter of fact, we knew who they were. We knew who they were. Why? Because we gave birth to them. We created them. See, you can't say that you are the original man, right? And then somebody else just pop up on the scene and now you want to call them aliens. You got to ask yourself, well, how the hell they get here? They figured out how to conquer all your stuff. How they conquer all your stuff? Huh? It's had to have been an inside job. Huh? That's where they came. They came from us. They came from our lower self. And when we say lower self, what we're talking about is the recessive gene. The recessive gene of black people. The recessive gene of what we call humans today. The Eve gene is a beautiful thing. It's the gift and the curse. It's the gift and the curse. Because it has the ability to adapt. It has the ability to adapt to its climate. The black woman is the one who can produce any race on this planet. Any race on the planet. It comes from the divine black mitochondrial DNA. Every race on earth comes from her. Okay? So y'all can kill all the, you putting blonde, you making your hair blonde, you trying to be like a white person. You see, that's the old African nature that we had. That's the old African nature. Okay? Because what happened was that recessive gene was being birthed and it was creating albinos. Okay? It was creating a race of beings that had the traits of white people. And that race is still in Africa today. They have blonde hair. That's not a white person thing. If that's a white person thing, then that now excludes you from being an original human being. You understand? We already had that. We had blonde hair, straight hair. Y'all gonna make me pull out the Sahu and the mummies of straight hair and show y'all. Not everybody had the non-ether curl. Some of them was born with straight hair. You understand? Because it's a recessive gene. At the end of the day, you think black men and stuff is enticed to white women simply because they got magic? Because they see themselves still in them at the end of the day in their DNA. Because they are still part of you. Regardless of whether you can fight this all you want. You can fight this all you want. But you gave birth to them. That's a fact. And you still giving birth to them today. There's couples today that's still having white babies. Straight up white. Huh? That's a fact. That's a fact. So you can't deny how genetics work. You got children being born, black babies being born with blue eyes. Huh? Being born with blue eyes. And they charcoal black, some of them. Huh? My own son was born with blue eyes. My own son was born with blue eyes. Until you activate the melanin in the species in the mitochondrial DNA of a black child, they can be born with blue eyes. That's my son right there with blue eyes. Once you activate it, that's when it turns to the hazel and the brown and the different colors. Oh, y'all gonna get this work today. Welcome to the lighthouse. Welcome to the lighthouse. You see, it was our lower self. It was our lower self that produces the results that we have today with white people. Because what happened was, when these albinos were born, we banished them out of Africa. Said, get the hell up out of here. That's what we did. You know, we call them devils and demons, and we cast them out of Africa. And in the midst of that process, the Ice Age came. The Ice Age. Uh-oh. Here's the missing link. This is the missing link that the scholars aren't talking about. See, we were already here. We were already here during the Ice Age. They sold you the dinosaur theory so they could usurp themselves as the original man. You understand what I'm saying? To make you believe we didn't coexist with dinosaurs or any other large beasts. Of course the beasts were larger because the earth was very, very different then. We had the Asheraj trees planted. It was much more fertile ground, right? The atmosphere was much more abundant in oxygen. You see? Those big birds that they had wouldn't be able to even get off the ground. They wouldn't be able to lift off today because we didn't have the oxygen, the plentiful oxygen that we have today, that we had back then, rather, I should say. It was a plethora of good air and oxygen back then because we had those big trees that I told you that are mountains that they chopped down. The Asherah trees was planted in the ground. So there was more oxygen in the air. So those big, what they call pterodactyls or large birds, was able to fly back then. They couldn't survive today because our oxygen is depleted when they cut down those trees. You understand? Just like today, if you go into a forest and you cut down all the trees, the birds going to migrate. They got to go somewhere. They can't stay there. This is why you don't see them here no more. Because we cut down the Asherah trees. That's what provided the oxygen that we needed for those animals to live. Okay? So when you look at your brothers and sisters, not only the white race, when you look at Chinese people, those are black people. Those are black people. Huh? Huh? You ain't got Chinese eyes. They have black people's eyes. You understand? We gave them those eyes. We gave them that when we migrated out of Africa. Facts. The original Chinese people or Asian people were black. Black people. So you got to ask yourself, well, what happened? Well, when the Ice Age came, they all get separated, right? They got to start. They can't just say, how the hell are we going to get back home if they can't? They got to survive where they at. They were displaced. So they weren't getting any sunlight, right? The albinos that we bashed out, they went out into the Caucasus Mountains, and now they in the damn mountains until the Ice Age is over. The Ice Age lasted for a significant amount of time. We're talking thousands of years. So we're talking DNA that's without the sun living in caves for thousands, tens of thousands of years with no sunlight. And you already are albino, right? We can go back into ancient maps. We can go back to ancient maps. One of the oldest maps of Jerusalem, when it shows Jerusalem. And on this map, This is a very significant map. Why? Because it shows the city of Jerusalem already built. And this is when they put the city of Jerusalem as the center of the earth. But it also shows, if you look to the right corner of this map, you will see little beings on the right-hand side in caves. Woo! Who's that? Who's that? Who's the beings in the caves? Huh? We got the city of Jerusalem standing, but there's some little monsters over there. Who's those little demonic looking beings that they put in there depicted as little goblins and ghouls? Who is that? Who is that? You see them? You see them on the right hand side? In the caves? Which would be the Caucasus Mountains right around there? Who that? They was already there. Huh? Remember, we already circumnavigated the globe. Y'all keep forgetting that part. We had already hit every part of the globe, including the albinos. Where did they go? They went into those mountains, right? So when you hear the people talking about, oh yeah, we Israelites, we from Jerusalem, and we from Israel, right? Everybody's not lying. Some of them were. Some of them were. You understand? This is why I tell you, you got to get information from everybody. Figure out, is that you? Were you one of the people that was banished over there and then maybe you got darker through your DNA, through the connect? Some of you could have. Some of you, maybe not. You got to get tested. We was just testing genetics and all of that back in the day. When albinos started popping up, we didn't know what to do with them. They were our brothers and sisters. They were our offspring, but we was like, yo, nah, man, this is crazy. You know? We had to get them up out of there. So you know, people was calling them evil and calling them ghosts. So they were scared of them. They were scared of them. But what happens is while they sitting in these mountains, another variation of a human being, I won't say a human being, another variation of a species started to interbreed with them. And that's when you get what we call the Neanderthal. It still remains to be seen, and anybody that tells you they know where they come from is a damn lie. They're trying to figure out where the Neanderthal came from. Okay? The Neanderthal started to interbreed with our African brother albino sisters, right? But the Neanderthal had been around for quite some time. They was around during Homo erectus, all of this time, okay? They was around during the real primitive beings that were not human. They was around. And they started interbreeding with these albinos and creating a whole separate species. So almost like they was having an alternate dimension of life. Here we are. We stayed in the sun, right? We dealing with the natural resources. We stayed on Earth and on the actual plane outside getting our melanin. You feel what I'm saying? And we were dealing with the natural resources and alchemy and creating science and flourishing and doing everything. And they were still stuck in the caves. Still stuck in there for thousands of years while we was out flourishing. So when we say it's in their nature to be the way they are, it's because they was going through something, right? We was kings and queens, royalty, eating grapes, creating sciences, and they was in the muck and the mire. They was in the trenches still. You gotta remember that. This is actual fact. I don't care if you don't like it. It's the truth. They was your cousins. They was your daughters. They was your brothers, your sisters that were banished from Africa, right? The problem is, when they came out, some of them still had savage natures. Huh? Some of them still had savage natures. And that savage nature, we had to kill them off. We had to kill some of them off. You understand? Because their nature was still that of a savage. Still that of a savage. And we couldn't, I should say, civilize them. No matter how much we bathed them, no matter how much we cleaned them up, civilized them, put the boards in their back, taught them how to walk upright. Some of them was still had their savage ways. While they was in those mountains, they was committing all sorts of abominational things like bestiality, right? They're having sex with animals. You know, it's scarce for food, so they're committing cannibalism and they're killing each other and eating each other. You understand what I'm saying? They was killing each other. This is why they love the concept of zombies and stuff like that, because while we was taking out our dead and praising our ancestors and giving them proper burials, they was living in the cave, so they wasn't able to give proper burials. So their ancestors was laying right next to them, looking like that. A damn zombie. Laying right next to you. So they created spookism over death. We looked at death as a transitional period. You understand? We was progressing. Our DNA was progressing. So when they started coming back out, now they depleted of the sunlight and they coming back into Africa, they had to kill animals for clothes, because if they stayed out any more than 15 minutes, they would get boils on their skin and burns. It would burn their skin because they wasn't used to the sun no more. They was in the caves for so long, their DNA, it had changed. It had changed. So they would get sunburn. You understand? And you still see that today. It's still in their DNA. Oh, no, it's nothing funny. This is real things. Remember, we're the watchers of this planet. So at the same time, we still got to look at things in balance. This is what actually happened. This is the lower self. What happens to the lower self? This is what happens to you when you're depleted from the sun. The same thing will happen to you. Real rap. Some of them were having sex with monkeys, right? Monkeys and animals and wolves and dogs, bestiality. Some of them were even born with tails. They were born with tails. They were mixing their DNA and breeding with species other than themselves. Real rap. You got to learn genetics and how it works. Till this day, some of them are still being born with tails. Being born with tails. Working tails. Tails that actually waggle. They move like a dog would. Huh? Oh, don't you laugh. Because the same thing could happen to your black ass. The same thing could happen to your black ass. You see, that's a black man right there. You understand what I'm saying? This is how it happened. So what happened is religion comes into play, and they wanted to usurp themselves as the original man. They wanted to usurp themselves as the original man, so they gave you the stories of Adam and Eve, right? To try to put themselves back in history. They're desperately trying to usurp themselves back in history, because we were the first ones to erase their history as Africans when we banished them out of Africa. Real rap. So when you look at them, understand what their nature is. The reasons why they do what they do. They ain't gonna be able to help themselves. It's their nature. Huh? It's their nature. It's like your brother that you kicked out of the house, right? Your brother that you kicked out of the house when he was young. All of a sudden, your brother pops off. Your brother pops off, creates a whole little nature of his own. Now your brother comes back into the house for whatever reason. You let him back in the house. You think everything's gonna be peachy knowing that you kicked him out the house? Nah, you're gonna be banging on one another. You're gonna be banging. Just the fact that you can see a white man lets you know that their frequency is damn near identical to yours, but something altered it. They're in an alternate dimension. It's the lower self. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to see them, right? You wouldn't even be able to see them if they were some outside entity. No, they're the same entity as you was. They came from the same place out of Africa, but they went into an alternate dimension, a lower self, because they were not in nature where they were designed to be in. And we did that to them. Real rap. So what we got to do, what we need to do, is to always remember in the back of our mind how this thing actually happened. What went down. We can no longer pinpoint, and pick and choose what ideologies we want to play with and what knowledge we want to play with. We got to put all the knowledge into the pot. We can't forsake anybody. It don't matter who you are. We got to look at all the knowledge, put it all in the pot, and say, okay, what's true and what's not? What's true and what's not? Because you can't call yourself the original man and then have some white man come in and take all you got and then get mad because somehow you created that. You put, like I told you, the energy that you put out, we manifest the universe that we see. So everything that we see, it's our responsibility to fix that. We're the ones who bring balance. You understand? We did that. So now we got to check ourselves. We got to check ourselves. We can't keep looking at them as they higher than us. At some point, we got to check ourselves and say, yo, how do we manifest this into the universe? Huh? Regardless, if they came in and took everything, how do we make a situation where they able to come in and take everything? Huh? How did that happen? You can't call yourself God and be a slave at the same time. You can't call yourself king and be a slave at the same time. Come on, somebody. Y'all gonna have to wake up. This is reality. I'm not gonna take knowledge and block knowledge out for the sake of making you feel good as a black man. Like, yeah, black power, black power, black power. When I know your nature, because of tomorrow, if you had a white baby, you'd be nervous as hell. You wouldn't even know what to do. But guess what? It can't happen. That's the nature of the mitochondrial DNA of a black woman. She can produce any baby she wants. Any child she wants. That's the power of the divine feminine. That's the power of the Eve gene. That's us. Huh? Religion got y'all bugging. They'll give you any spook story, even though you can see it right here with your own eyes what's going down. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. My own son came out with the blue eyes. You can't tell me nothing. And both of us as black as you can be. You can't tell me nothing. I know about the Eve gene. You understand? That's the nature of a black woman. When you're RH negative, you can produce anything. My woman is RH negative. That means she has no rhesus monkey blood in her. That's pure mitochondrial DNA of a black woman. Huh? A lot of our black women is running around O positive, A positive, whatever. Right? You got the positive. That positive means you have rhesus monkey blood in you. When you're RH negative, you don't have any rhesus monkey blood. That's like the purest bloodline. O negative. That's the